See Brown in your face.
Have you heard of Everything at Once?
Do you know about Everything at Once?
It's internationally known.
Aliens listen to it.
It's the best ever.
If there's something you're looking for in the 814, or feeling a little bored and think there ain't no more, check out Everything at Once and allow it to be your source. It's that raw podcast that's always showing support, highlighting the scene. No need to take I-90 to Peep or 79 to see how it be. Interviewing your locals with mindsets that are global. Innovators and creators on every single upload. So much going on in the EPA.
Incredible content.
Everything at Once will keep you up to date.
Amazing guests.
What you doing? Come through and hang with Tony and Dave.
Community driven.
Bringing everything at once from around the way. Everything at once from around the way. Hey.
Please listen. We love you. Everything at Once.
Everything at Once.
It's time to introduce this show.
The best show on the face of the planet.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you all for tuning in today. We want to thank our Patreon producers, Brian G., Josh W., Ian D., Nick G., and Sadie M.
Patreon, it's an awesome way to support the show and say thanks. You can become a Patreon supporter by clicking the link below and choosing to be an intern, assistant, or producer level supporter.
If being on the production team is too much pressure for you, you can also send any contributions using our Venmo at Everything at Once Studios. We now want to thank all the local businesses who supported this episode. These businesses get the Everything at Once stamp of approval and are critical members of the Everything at Once community. We couldn't do it without them. With winter approaching, are there any last-minute details that you want to change or renovate around your home?
I might, but you know who to call.
Yeah! Ghostbusters!
No, Tony. No, not Ghostbusters. Solid State Construction.
Oh, yeah. Solid State.
Yeah.
Duh. Solid State takes pride in all their home remodeling projects. Solid State specializes in bathroom remodeling, kitchen renovation, window and door installation, custom design work, and more, including painting, flooring, drywall, sidewalk, decks. Get your free quote today by calling Nick at 814-397-7854. Solid people, solid product, Solid State Construction.
You know, Tony, with all these renovations from Solid State, I think we might have kicked up some bad energy around here. Yeah, oh yeah. Luckily, we know just the people to go see.
I know it this time. It's Ghostbusters.
No, Tony! Our friends at Cauldron and Thorne!
Wow. I feel really dumb right now, and I can't believe I didn't think of Cauldron and Thorne, the world's largest witchcraft and metaphysical shop, with everything a person needs to channel the spirit world.
Practice some self-care.
Find enlightenment.
Curse your enemies.
Protect yourself from your enemies.
Bless your friends.
Cleanse your space from negative energies. You can check out all the magical wares available at for these different practices we all love and enjoy at Cauldron and Thorne, 2724 West 8th Street, or online at cauldronandthorne.com.
This week, we have an incredible guest for you.
Hello and welcome, all you people out there. We got a special guest with us today, Larry Wheaton.
Hello.
Thank you so much for stopping by. Fellow radio show host. Podcasting and radio show hosting is kind of the same a little bit. I feel
similar.
like we both talk to people. Yours,
right.
You have music though, right?
It's mostly music, but we've done interviews as well.
Cool. Yeah, and ours is just like pre-recorded and not on the radio. It's on the internet for all the people, all those youths that don't listen to the radio anymore.
You can stream us online too, and we pre-record, so it's very similar.
Very similar. Nice, yeah. So thank you so much for coming by. I know you're involved in a ton of different things around the area. The thing that I want to get started with, or that I'm most interested in, is sonic sound, though. So can you tell me a little bit about how that got started?
Sure. So Sonic Sounds is on WQLN on Friday nights, 10 to midnight.
What's the channel?
97.1.
97.1. I still listen to them in the morning sometimes, so that's like probably the only radio. Them and WERG.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to listen to ERG a lot growing up.
For sure.
Actually did an interview with them back in the 90s and when Phase Cookies had his
Oh,
show.
Phase Cookies was awesome.
Yeah,
I
it
wish
was a
it
good
was
show.
still around.
Yeah.
Now it's just Super Soul Saturday. That's the only thing I really look forward to on WERG.
You don't listen to Polka on Sundays?
Oh, I do after I listen to Super Soul Saturday because I wake up in the morning and start my car and then I'm like, oh, this is nice. Yeah, here we go.
Before my car switches over to Bluetooth, it takes like 10 seconds or so. And it's just always on AM 530, which is either static or like faint traces of like some foreign I don't know the language, but it's just like some foreign like AM talk show stuff with a little light music in the background.
Okay.
When it's that stuff, I just kind of let it roll for a little bit.
Yeah.
That's good ambient music.
Good
right?
ambient music, yeah, when you're disassociating while driving.
Yeah, on your way to work.
Yeah. No
That's not
FM
bad.
for me though. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
Well, you can
FM
also
radio.
stream a lot of the QLN shows online. They have an app, and they leave them up for about a week until you get the new show.
Mm-hmm.
But we started at, I can't remember the show we replaced, but something happened where the host had to stop. So they needed a new host. My friend Bill Moon, who's the co-host, he's I was working at QLN at the time, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
Me and him were both in the production department, and he's a huge deadhead. So he was trying to pitch this dead show where it was just all dead, and they're like, well, you need to add something a little more. And he knows I have a huge record collection and I love music and I used to do college radio, and he asked me if I wanted to partake. So we started working on this the playlist together, and they liked it, and then now we're on it. And he told me last time we're at one of the top streams for local, so that's pretty good.
It's awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah. Fantastic. Do you guys have any local guests or local music?
We play local music all the time. We played the new Optimistic Apocalypse. We played Tyler Smilo and the Ghost. Anytime anyone new puts something out, Brent, who also plays in Optimistic Apocalypse, we played Machine Elvis. That's one of his. That's his side project. So yeah, we play local music all the time. We'd like to get some more local artists on. As far as interviews, we've interviewed Moon Hooch when they came to play Basement.
Oh, they were
Transmission.
awesome.
They were awesome. We
Yeah.
saw them, yeah.
Oh, you guys were at that show?
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
for sure. Transforming saxophone technology through the use of traffic cones is, I think, one of the greatest things to happen to music in a long time.
It's pretty impressive, and they had a good light show too, and that opening act was good.
Right. Yeah, it was a great show. We had a good time. There's another one now, Big Blitz too, that I've seen that has like the two saxophone players that are out of Pittsburgh, local for Pittsburgh or whatever. And
Northwest Pennsylvania.
I think it's fantastic. Just drum track and saxophone and
Yeah, they're two
distortions.
brothers in that
Yeah,
band.
yeah.
We played with them. That was at the Basement Transmission shows.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And we also interviewed Joe Travers twice. He's the guy that's in charge of Frank Zappa's vault. They call him the Vault
Oh,
Meister.
very cool.
So we talked about all sorts of things, like how bake tapes, like if you have tapes that are warping, and how to get them back into shape to turn them to digital, so that way
They're not
or
lost.
transform, so they're not lost.
That's pretty
So,
sweet.
and he did a whole 3 CD box set of Zappa when he played Erie. So he talked in depth about that. That was kind of his COVID project. He was going through the old archives and found it. He didn't even know it still existed.
Wow. That's wild to think that Frank Zappa played in Erie a million years ago.
They played 3 times.
3 times in
he played
Erie a million years ago.
Edinburgh and Gannon. I think he played Edinburgh twice, maybe.
I work with a few older people. I know a few older people, like my father. But from my understanding, back when they had the Erie Field House, like over by where like Route 8 is off Route 8,
Right.
they had a lot of big bands that would come in here. Like this was a pretty popular spot. Like they had like the Black Sabbath and Ozzy Osbourne and
I heard about
bands
that.
like that, you know.
Yeah, the guy that wrote the book on that also has a podcast. He talks to a lot of the older members in the music community. His name's Chip. Yeah, he wrote the whole book. There's a whole book on it with flyers and stuff that he's collected. It's pretty cool.
It's interesting. You always learn something new, and I love hearing about other people that are out in Erie, like doing podcasts and doing radio shows, and just keeping this old art of conversation and talk radio or whatever still alive, you know, and music in general, old music, local music. Anybody that goes out and promotes that stuff or is playing that stuff, I think, deserves a special spot in everybody's hearts or appreciation. So thank you very much for what you're doing and giving these people a platform.
I mean, definitely. That's why almost everything I do is music related because, well, it's my favorite thing.
Yeah.
I got into it when I was young, and it's become my addiction, if you will. I don't, really have many vices. Biggest one probably is music, playing music, listening to music, talking about music. So
Right.
I do the Reader. I do reviews for bands. I interview bands. I promote the shows. I do the radio show, and I play in 2 bands and pick up gigs. So
Yeah, staying busy for sure. And summer seems to be the busiest time for everybody around. You know what I mean? Everybody's going out to concerts.
Right.
Everybody's playing shows.
well, it's Erie.
Yeah.
In the wintertime, you don't want to carry
Right.
all gear.
No, definitely not. Well, I don't know. Maybe next year will be different because it keeps getting warmer every year.
That's true.
Yeah, global warming might change how we record and play, but yeah, right now we promote. Most of the bands usually record in the winter.
Yeah. Yeah, that seems to be the case. And there's a number of good people that do some really high quality stuff around here too. So we're fortunate in that regard as well. So trombone in Logan
Right,
and
Logan
Dirty
and Dirty
Lou.
Leaf, and This American Song. I've been in that band for 10+ years.
So crazy to think they've been around that long.
Well, Logan's been around for about 5 or 6. I've just been playing with him for about a year this September.
Yeah.
He picked up me and Ken and another Larry on trumpet. And
Such a
rounded
huge
out.
band
Yeah.
he's assembling.
Yeah, and then we have Hank on harmonica, and I know you've had Lone Sav on here. He plays bass, and I think we're playing Sounds Around Town at QLN tomorrow or Friday, whenever you're listening to this, the Friday after we recorded this. And we're also going to have Hibbler, who Michael Hibbler. He's a percussionist. He's going to sit in with us too, I guess.
That's going to be awesome.
Oh, yeah.
It's a huge group, and it's nice to see these bands incorporating a large, diverse number of instruments and sounds into what they're doing, you know what I mean? Instead of saying pigeonholed into, guitar and drums only, or
Right.
bass.
I feel like over the last couple decades, like getting back into these ensemble bands that really went by the wayside in popularity in like the 50s and 60s, and now they're making, well, it's not like right now, it's been happening, wave coming in, but it's cool to see history kind of repeat itself in that way.
Yeah, the other band, This American Song I'm in, also has 9 people in it. That one's more of turned into a music collective. When I joined it 10 years ago, I was the only horn player. We had a keyboard player and a drummer. They were brothers, and the bassist and singer guitarist were brothers. And then the guitarist, John Johnston, I used to be in a band with him called Telephonics in the early 2000s. And my shifts worked out where I could start practicing with them, and I started showing up. And now some of those guys left. We don't have any brothers in the band anymore. Now we have a couple couples. So we have Brent and Mac in the band, and we have Dave Tamialonis in the band, and Marissa, his girlfriend, plays saxophone. And
Oh, interesting.
yeah, it's a whole collective now, and everyone's kind of contributing to the writing. So it's a lot of fun. And what I like about both those bands, have 9 people, but they sound nothing alike. One is more jam and funk, and Logan's, and there's a little more room for experimentation. But This American Song, there's like finite parts and songs that we just work on ad nausea until you get it right.
How hard is it to get 9 people together to practice, rehearse?
Not that hard if everyone's into it.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes a big difference for
Yeah.
sure. 9 people is a lot to coordinate, though.
Sound guys hate us.
I bet.
Yeah.
But there's something special about having all those horns in that big ensemble too, and the sound that it produces. You know what I mean? It's something that just raises my excitement level when I see a bunch of people all coordinating, the same stuff and coming together to make some a unified sound out of a bunch of different instruments and noises and singing and all of the different things that come along with it.
Yeah, you have to worry about dynamics, so it's really tricky to you have to have good monitors or at least a good ear to know when you're overpowering and being too loud when to back off, and everyone kind of has to be on the same page.
For sure. Especially when you don't have a giant sound system to practice.
Right, so if you're playing a smaller club like Philly on the Rocks, for instance, which I've played with 9 people, we're overflowing on the stage.
Yeah.
And there's really no monitors. You just kind of have to
Go for
start
it.
quiet. If you start loud, then it's just going to be blisteringly loud.
Yeah, and it's a small area, and that makes a big difference too. Because sometimes I feel like maybe I'm getting old now, but there is such a thing as too loud these days. After 35 years of going to concerts, I can just feel it when it's a little bit too much for the room size, and
You don't want to admit it. I can't believe you just admitted that on air.
On air, yeah, dude. This is gonna be recording. Don't judge me, people.
I started bringing headphones. I saw the Melvins. I don't know if you're familiar with that band. At the Grog Shop. It's a small place.
Yeah, I've been there before.
Okay. They had 2 drummers, and they're one of the loudest bands I've ever seen. I didn't hear right for 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
So ever since that concert, I bring earplugs any show I go to because you never know.
Yeah, no, I wish I had the personal self-love or whatever it is to protect my ears in those situations.
Yeah.
But the other part of me like really wants to be cool and not wear earphones or headphones.
There's a point where it's so loud, though, if you put the earplugs in, you can hear the solos and parts a little better, actually.
No, for sure.
Depends on the venue, though.
Yeah, I totally feel you. I went to a Black Dahlia Murder show at this place in Pittsburgh. It starts with an R,
Roxy
Theater,
Roxy
and
and
holy fuck, it was so goddamn loud. They could have turned it down just a tiny bit.
Right.
But
My only bad experience was with a glockenspiel that almost blew out both my eardrums. But
that was in the treehouse, though. That wasn't even really loud. That was just the headphones.
it's loud when
okay.
you have headphones
Yeah.
on, like, bing.
Yes.
Yeah.
No.
Well, certain pitches, too, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They pierce. It was a really high pitched, like solid glockenspiel hit from Adam, One Wayness, and
Adam, okay.
Yeah, and it
Voice.
devastated my ears as well when I was
Yeah.
listening to it in post. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, I think he has a show coming up, too.
Yeah.
Like, bringing some bands in. And
I
unfortunately,
think that's
can't
at
make it.
Feed, too.
Yeah, I can't make it because I have a show. I think we were talking about that beforehand. You do so many shows, you can't make to all other ones you want to see.
Right. It's tough to balance it out, and there's just so much going on in everybody's lives to make it to all the things is really impossible. But I think everybody really knows that. And generally, it's great to have other bands support, but you want an audience, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
People that are coming out to see you, not just your... like, we appreciate all the homies that come out and listen and check out the podcast and all that stuff. And it's great. But a lot of times it feels maybe not forced, but like it's an obligation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've played plenty of shows to like 5 friends and my mom.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
And
my mom's
goddamn-
pushing 70 and still shows up. I'm like, it's past your bedtime. You
Right.
can go to bed. You don't have to be here.
We love and appreciate it, but
Right.
we understand if you got other stuff going on for sure. You know what I
Right.
mean? The support is still there regardless of whether or not you're there physically.
I think we learned that lesson real quick, like when we started this, and we try to do our best, and we support people on the social medias and however we can. But when we started this podcast a couple years ago, one of the goals we tried to set for ourselves was to be reciprocal in the community, and it was like every single guest we have on, we're gonna try our damnedest to go to all these shows,
To
all
make
these
it to
premieres,
concerts,
all this
yeah.
stuff, openings of stores and stuff. And boy, does that stuff pile up fast, and it is hard to make everything.
Yeah. I feel like we've seen most of them, though. There's
We-
not really any bands, I think, that have been on the show that we haven't seen at one point. or
For sure.
another.
Yeah, so we've done a good job with it, but like the original plan of like, okay, we have someone on, they have shows this and this date, and it's like every single day of yours is booked up. It's doable, but it's just tough at
It's tough.
points.
You need your own personal time, too, especially if you have, like, any sort of relationships or friends or obligations or a home or laundry, any of those things to kind of balance it all out. But yeah, I think we've done a pretty good job making it to everybody's show at least once. I know there's still some bands that I want to take pictures of that I haven't yet, but I know that I've made it to a lot of different shows for just about every band. And Everybody's Business, I think we've been there, like, supporters of as well.
Yeah, at least once or twice.
Right.
Yeah, tomorrow there's Adam's show. Then there's that Maniacal Device Mall Sangre at Lavery's, and I'm playing somewhere. So I'd like to go to both those shows, but I'm going to be playing my own.
Yeah. Blessing and problem of privilege, for sure. to
I
have
guess
so
it's
many
a good
good
problem
things.
for you to have.
Yeah, right.
But like you were saying, at least you have the opportunity with QLN to hear and play some of that music that you might not be able to get to live as much as you'd like to. So, I mean, that's still a good thing that you're able to stay plugged in like that.
Right, and when there's a new CD or album out, if I know it's coming out, like Elle Taylor put out her record. I did one song on that, and I did one song on their earlier one, which I can't thank her enough for the first one. It was the first recording I did post-COVID. She was recording that first one, I think it was Doc Prado at his place at PACA.
Sure, yeah.
And it's a cool little place, and he was recording in a closet. I don't know if you've ever tried to record a trombone in a closet.
Sounds like I need a lot of sound deadening.
Well, not just that. There's no room for the slide to go.
Oh, okay,
So
yeah.
I had to play looking down. But it sounded pretty cool. But it was good to get back into it after that long break from COVID.
Yeah, for sure.
I came back strong afterwards. That's when I started doing the radio show, and I wrote for the Reader a little before. Actually, like a month before COVID is when I started, and then it kind of was on a hiatus because they had no print. It was all online.
Yeah, I mean, nobody was going out to pick up the Reader, so that makes sense. I really appreciate a lot of the people that write there and listen to the music and write reviews of different albums that are coming out. It's important to just like promote and to share the people's talents that are around here. You know what I mean? Because I feel like yes, you're doing it for yourself, but it feels really good to be recognized for that kind of stuff, or to have somebody listen to it and say you did a good job, you know what I mean, that we approve of, or we like the music that you're creating and that it's appreciated. But that's just like the nature of being an artist, I think, is trying to express yourself and have people be out there and have your art be understood.
Most of the writers on Reader are contributing writers, and it doesn't pay a lot, I'll be honest. Like maybe I just got a $12 check.
Hell
But
yeah.
it's help pay for the next record I buy, or puts a little bit of gas in my tank. But it's for love. You want to do it because you want to help support the scene, or you really like writing, what you really like writing about. And I think that's for most of the contributing writers there, because no one's getting rich off the Reader.
Right. And I think that's special too, and that people are doing it outside of the monetary rewards or monetary goals. That was like something that I had to have been realizing more and more over the past 6 months or last year, is that we're doing this for the love of doing this, not because we're going to get famous and have thousands of listeners, hundreds of thousands of listeners, and all these sponsors and people are going to be lining up to do it. It's because we enjoy podcasting and doing the Treehouse series and the other stuff we do, and making movies and all that fun stuff. We got ideas for the next movie too. I'm super excited about them already. If we're gonna make a little funny short, I think hopefully before summer's over, if we can slap something together quick enough.
We can slide it into the schedule. People should really appreciate the Erie Reader. I'm sure a lot of people do. But it's so important to have such a well put together publication that's also free for the people. I get more information from the Erie Reader than I do from the Times News. No offense to them, but I can't remember the last time I picked up a Times News, and it is a little bit of a barrier because I have to buy it, you know? But I just always find myself more drawn to what's in the Reader. It's just even though you guys don't get paid a lot, it's always top-notch writing, journalism.
Right. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
What I'll say about the Times News from my long history of working in the news and everything is, when I was younger, it was the showcase every Thursday, and they had a block of local. You could see every show coming up. They would interview local people. Dr. Rock, that's what he went by. His name's escaping me right now. Dave Richards. Dave Richards was also Dr. Rock. He had both egos in there, and that was the go-to. And then the paper did a brief free paper called Tangent in the early 2000s, kind of pre-Reader, but it didn't take off. They weren't making money, so they stopped doing it. And then what happened essentially is that the paper got bought out by another company. They don't even print it in Erie. They used to print it in Erie. Most of the people that got fired that worked there, they don't cover as much local as they used to, just because they're getting a lot of stuff from The Wire to put in the showcase. So unfortunately for them, that's what happened. But fortunately for the Reader, they took that market that was kind of missing that that part of the scene, and they made it free, which made it more accessible to more people, and I think that's why it's so successful.
Yeah, and I think that news has drastically changed with the introduction of social media in such a huge way that it's not really about doing quality as much as it is quantity and speed. You know what I mean? You want to put the story out like as soon as possible. At least this is the idea that I'm getting, or the impression that I'm getting. I can't really speak to this personally, but it seems like we will forgo quality in order to get the story out quickly. And I think that's kind of universal across multiple news medias and news outlets.
In my personal opinion, you would probably have more experience with this, but not just in the news, just in business in general, like the conglomeration of businesses, the creation of umbrellas and, like monopolies. Like you grab a Erie Times News Today, it says right there, like a USA Today.
A contributing writer, yes.
Yeah, like that's like they're backing, big company or whatever. And that just seems to be happening more and more. And with like those big, organizations, like the responsibility is more to the shareholder than it is to the consumer, in my opinion. So like if cutting costs means putting more money in the shareholders' pockets and, raising those stocks, then that's what they're going to do. So I always appreciate things that don't have to follow the beat of a corporate drum.
Well, I mean, I don't blame the Times News, though, because times have changed. Like now we get all our news from the phone or even TV and streaming, and they're just, I don't want to say dying media, because people still read, and obviously the Reader, you can go and they're missing ones, but they had to cut down from morning and afternoon to one paper. They no longer can print it there. It's just not viable. They don't have paper boys anymore. That's gone away. So I feel like they have to if they want to stay alive, they have to have some sort of support, and I think that's what happens, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I don't blame the Times News at all for having to stay alive by having someone else give them money. It's just unfortunate.
No, and I totally agree, and I totally understand that. Without those large conglomerate backers, there's a good chance that it wouldn't be around at all. But I also do agree with you, Dave, in some aspects that it's no longer about the consumer and more about It's
mostly ads and kind of things they want you to read about, though. I worked in television for years, and honestly, one of the reasons I got out was it was just too fast, quick turnaround, and I didn't care about who won Dancing with the Stars. Why do I have to run a story about that? I think some more local stuff is more interesting, so that's why I got out of it. But
yeah, and I think that through those national, when you're trying to reach a national audience like the USA Today or any of those other larger corporations, you lose that hominess that Erie Times and Erie Reader hone in on, you know what I mean? Then leave that niche open. It's just unfortunate that so many, I don't know what it is about the market right now, but it seems like local culture and local news is kind of dying off and being replaced with larger stories because it attracts more of an audience.
Well, they have to compete with your phone.
They have to compete with your phone. They have to compete with everything else that's out there that's nationally interesting.
I just have a certain, and I understand it. I studied it in school, in college, but I understand with big journalism, national journalism, one of the reasons I was I don't think I want to get into journalism on that level when I was making those decisions was you could have yourself a really cool story, but you have to serve the interests of your employer. I know that to a point, I just I like the idea. And I know it's a utopia, just capitalism, whatever, but I love the idea of just totally free press, which is impossible. But I feel I'll circle back around, I feel even though it might just be not just, but if, music reviews, arts and culture, breakdowns of that kind of stuff, I like that stuff more at this current point. just because it just gets to be what it is.
And that's the stuff I feel it's the most important in a community, because that's the stuff that grows a community. That's the stuff that your friends, your family, your kids should be getting into, is the art and entertainment. Not that getting into politics, I'm not going to get into it right now, but getting into politics isn't a bad thing, because you also should. If you don't like how it's going, you should definitely run for politics or run for your local office if you have that ability and the means to do so. But art is free. Anyone can create art. So the more art you're exposed to, the better your art in theory will be if you're soaking it in, taking one part from here you like, part from here, and make something your own. That's great. So
Absolutely.
Something like the Reader or anything, this podcast, it gets people to talk about other people or listen to other people is great.
Right. And I think has a lot more value in a city or in a community like Erie, or any community really, to be able to talk about things that are locally. Like, I might be able to actually meet some of these people that that you or other people write about in the Reader or in the Erie Times, whereas I'm probably never going to meet most of the people that are in USA Today. You know what I mean? That doesn't really have a direct effect on me like a local band putting out a new album would have a direct effect on me, because I'll be able to see them, I'll be able to support them, I'll be able to listen to them, and it's about our area,
Right, or like the opening of a local business.
Absolutely.
Going in and patronizing somebody that's stepping out on their own and doing something to add to the community. I like it in newsprint form too, because we've talked about this on the show before. Like the phone, too much information overload. Like I could see, This American Song. I see something on my Facebook feed like, oh, they're playing somewhere, and then I look at 100 different things. But when it's like in a paper right in front of me, it's not changing. When I shut it off and turn it back on, I'm not getting a fresh feed. I'm like, okay, I can look at this, and this is just right in front of me.
And there's no algorithm trying to figure out what you like.
Right.
The Reader's just, it is what it is. Here's what's going on.
Right. And I think there's something good about having it sectionalized, you know what I mean? Like you have your arts and entertainment section, you have your local news section or whatever. In a printed thing, it's not arts and then whatever else you're looking at, and then an ad, and then something completely different. It allows you to hone in specifically on what you're interested in and kind of keep that loop going instead of cutting it short to move to the next topic, if that makes sense.
And the Reader also has little comics.
Oh yeah. Right.
Yeah, we had Tommy Link on before.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And just in general, I think that people's attention span has kind of the way that we've consumed and the way that we learn and the way that we think has changed dramatically since the introduction of social media in general. And it hops so violently from one thing to another that it's hard to hone in on particulars or certain things or certain sections, unlike it used to be, where you had to read or watch something that was a half hour, 15 minutes, or 100 pages, or however many pages, or however many paragraphs, instead of just instantly switching or scrolling or doing whatever it is you're doing, however it is you're consuming.
I see it as a metaphorical hall of mirrors, because it's the algorithm and it's giving you what you like, so it's just reflecting yourself back at you over and over again. So that's how people get caught in these echo chambers, because you're not being introduced to new things that you might not have looked at before.
And that's not just to say for people's beliefs. That can be with their music taste
Exactly.
and art taste too.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, oh, I like Nirvana. Then all of a sudden you have 30 different interviews and live things and covers all through your feed, and you're not really hearing anything else new.
Right.
But and speaking of music, I think we were talking before. I interviewed Tommy Stinson. I think you're going to want to talk about that.
Oh, yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Since we're talking about music,
No,
segueing.
for sure.
So
Yeah. No, do your thing.
we won't bore people with politics or
No.
Yeah.
or
That's
our
enough
inner
about print
thoughts.
journalism.
Yeah, right.
journalism. But no, for the Reader actually was Tommy Stinson was the bassist vocalist for the Replacements. Well, one of the vocalists. He's coming to Erie, I believe, on the 20th. If I can look at my phone. I know that makes great radio when people look at stuff.
No, it's all good.
Or, sorry, not radio, podcast. Yeah, the 20th, it's a Saturday at Lavery's, the Bunker at Lavery's. I don't know if you two have been there.
Mm-hmm.
He's having an intimate show. Typically, he doesn't do too many solo shows. He has 2 solo records. He just did like a country record with his buddy. There's a band called Ma'am from Central PA. He's playing Rochester and Erie. He's not really doing any other shows. So it's kind of a one-off thing. He's going to do some acoustic stuff. Then he's going to play with the band, do some full band stuff. He was also in a band called Bash and Pop. He's playing music from that. He was also in Guns N' Roses for 10 years. I talked to him about that a little bit. I asked him what it was like to, what's it like to record with Axl for a decade and do so much music, but then only like one album comes out of it. He said there was at least another album worth of stuff, but they kept changing the names of the songs and reworking them. He's not really sure how many songs there are.
Yeah. It's a difficult challenge to wheel those things down, especially when you're creating music and creating art at such a in order to be good, I feel like you have to keep that wheel moving, you know what I mean? You have to keep creating and keep making new things, and not everything's going to be album quality material that you make, you know what I mean?
I'm sure it had to be especially interesting working with such a famously explosive personality as Axl Rose.
He said nice things about working with them, and he said he likes Guns N' Roses now, and he hopes that they would re-record him with Duff back in the band, because that's who we replaced as the bassist there. And I mean, back to the Reader, though, it was great that I worked for the Reader. I had that opportunity to interview him. I just sent an email to his agent saying, "Hey, can I get some information? I hear Tommy's coming to town." And she goes, "Do you want an interview?" Well, of course I do.
Yeah.
Who would say no to that? This guy's been nominated for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and I've been buying his records since I was 16. So of course, yeah. And you meet these. I didn't meet him yet because it was over the phone, but you talk to these people, and they're generally nice. And if you ask them like interesting questions, you can tell they loosen up a little bit. You guys know all about that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it just becomes like a really fun experience for you. And then you hang up the phone, you're like, yeah, that was pretty cool. I got to do that. Right. And I got to share information I learned from them with everyone through the Reader, and hopefully help promote the show. So, if people show up for this, they're going to show up to the next thing that Lavery's or whomever is sponsoring this brings to Erie. If there's 20 people there, well, we might not get something like this again.
Right. It's starting something new and doing something new is incredibly challenging and scary and difficult. And I feel like learning to temper expectations and then continuing or pushing through those failures or those times where people may not show up is one of the most difficult, but often the most rewarding and like critical part of any musician or artist's life.
I played a show to nobody once. There was a coffee house in Edinburgh that was right at the four-way stop where there's that, what's that called? Like the diner that looks old-timey. There
Crossroads Diner.
Crossroads, thank you. There was a coffee shop there, and we had a show. We booked there with the band Telephonics. We show up, and they had no clue that there was going to be a show there. They forgot someone booked it. So we just set up all our gear on the front yard, and we were playing to the people coming back from soccer camp, and they were just unrolling their windows. So we literally played for no one.
It's awesome.
And I sat with my trombone on the roof of the van, and just because I had no microphone, I just played off of the kind of reverberated off the aluminum buildings, the siding. So it was one of the most fun shows I've ever played. 0 people were there.
Right. Nobody, and you guys kept going and kept making more songs.
Yeah, they said, "Oh, you can sit up if you want," so we did.
Right. There's so many memes too that I've seen of like old concert venues, and it's just like a flat piece of plywood, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we tore this place up." Like the best stage I've ever seen, and it's just like a piece of plywood on a pallet on the ground.
Well, you said your co-host, your buddy, is a dead aficionado.
Oh, yeah.
Like they used to just.
I'm a fan, but he's like a dead head.
Yeah, me too. I'm a dead head as well. I got super stoked when I was about to go into a whole thing. There's absolutely enough to make a show about the Gist and Grateful Dead, but that's neither.
There is. It's just the mass appeal that they were worried about.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. We can't help people's bad taste.
We bookend every show. Every show starts and ends with the Dead.
Hell yeah. But like just pulling up in Golden Gate Park on a truck and just getting on the bed of the truck and playing in the 60s and just thousands of people showing up. Like, that was a Grateful Dead way of doing things for a little while.
Right.
It's just very cool to do, like, it just made me think about that when you were talking about the plywood, yeah.
Just to play, just to get out there and play, and whoever shows up, shows up. Right. And another phenomenon that I can think of recently like that is like the cheese ball guy.
I don't know if you saw it.
Yeah, New York City.
Just put the flyer.
Yeah, one flyer. I will eat this whole jar of cheese balls, and then he shows up, and the police have to come, and
there was like 1,000 people.
Yeah, in the middle of Central Park to watch this guy eat cheese balls. In a weird cave. Yeah, he did it. Kudos to you, cheese ball man. You're an American treasure.
You should have him on the show.
I wish.
If I knew how to contact him, cheese ball man, if you're out there listening, if somebody knows how to put us in contact, we'll have him on this show.
Come to Erie. I'll do a show where you can eat 2 things of cheese balls.
That's asking a lot, dude. I feel like one giant jar of cheese balls is a pretty lofty task. For him to go for 2.
Like one of the big,
He might be, he might be one of the, like a Joey Chestnut of cheese balls.
He could be, yeah.
That's a bold statement. Joey Chestnut can eat a lot of hot dogs.
This guy can eat a lot of cheese balls. You gotta see the video.
Yeah,
I gotta watch it. This is the first.
He wears like a Superman cape and a mask, and he's like yelling at a megaphone, I think. I don't even know if he brought the megaphone or if somebody just gave it to him.
I wish I was smart enough to figure out how something like that would stick. You know, like, go viral, get like 1,000 people to show up. Like, I could be like, I'm gonna do this, and there's no one, and then someone, and it's, fun, sounds like what he's doing, but someone's like, I'm gonna put on a cape and eat 1,000 cheese balls, and it's like, they have to call the NYPD, you know?
If 15 people showed up, we wouldn't have heard about it, though.
Right?
Yeah,
because there was 1,000 people, and the PD had
But I'm just saying, like, some of the ideas, I'm like, how does that work? Like,
Central Park probably already has like 1,000 people walking through any given part of it during any given day.
Yeah, but to get them to stop and
watch pay attention,
Yeah, because I think David Cross had the saying, in New York City, you're either going to see the craziest person you've ever seen or the hottest woman. So, like, seeing someone crazy eating cheese balls isn't that odd in New York City.
Yeah. Odd enough to get 1,000 people to stop and watch. I mean, if I saw something like that going on, I would probably have to hang out for a little bit and cheer on, you know?
I mean, I've been to New York a few times, and I've seen some people just doing outlandish stuff on the street, and I like kind of stopped. I was outside a comedy club in September there waiting, and this guy, he was fucking so talented, but he was just doing this whole song and dance number down the street. I can't remember the song, but he's like spinning between cars, like walking up the traffic, and I'm like, this guy's incredible. Nobody was paying attention to him. So like the cheese ball thing, you know, it's just, this guy was so fucking talented. I was like, this could be like a Broadway actor, and nobody's paying attention to him. Just I don't know.
But cheese ball man.
Cheese ball man.
He's got it figured out somehow. The whole atmosphere or the idea of going viral seems so attainable and so unobtainable at the same time.
I don't think anyone can make that decision. I think it just happens.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's certain people that can do it like on command or whenever they want. Maybe not whenever they want, but I feel like at a certain point you get good at going viral. Like that's how Mr. Beast like worked his whole thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah, once you start though, you have to get a following though on that one. But
right.
I mean, I've never been viral, so I can't.
I've never been viral either.
I mean, either. We've tried.
We've tried.
Yeah.
We need to start sharing more dang memes. The only person that I know that like went really viral is Tyler's one post about bluegrass. I got like over 250 shares on Facebook or something.
I got something like 4,000 views on one video, and I was like, this is great, I'm going viral, but then it just stopped.
It just fell off.
I was in Puerto Rico, and I had a little coqui frog thing, one of those things where you can make the frog noise.
Sure.
Which I play in This American Song at the end of one song, and Erin, who actually is in charge of the Reader, she's the managing editor, well, she's not in charge, she's the managing editor. Her and her kids laugh every time I play that at the end. So sometimes I'll just like look over at them and see them laughing at me. Anyway, when I got that, my wife bought it for me for my birthday when we were in Puerto Rico. And then there was a little coqui frog that came up. So the video is just me playing it, and then she pans down as a frog. Why would that be the video that got the most views? I don't know. It's cute, and that's one of the check boxes you can put for a viral video. I guess is cute.
I think people when they're like sitting on their, and I do it too, so I'm people as well. But people when they're like sitting on their phones, like in their rooms or on the couch or whatever. When you see something that you can't plan, you know, it's like, wow, I'm experiencing real life, as opposed to something that's like so obviously staged.
Right.
So if you get like wildlife involved, like if we're outside doing something and like, I don't know, a raccoon walked up to us and started dancing, like that would probably have a chance of going viral right now.
It's being in the right time in the right place and having your camera or whatever ready to capture it and recognizing the value in it, which is cool and interesting in its own way, but also I feel like loses my sense of being present in the moment if I'm trying to capture it, if I'm trying to catch it instead of just being there.
Yeah, it's really. I was in. I did film school at Edinburgh when it was still Edinburgh, and it's really funny. My senior project, I wrote a whole thing about how the future of filmmaking is just gonna be jump cuts. I said people's attention spans are getting shorter and shorter. We're just gonna want to watch jump cuts, and here we are in 2024. We're all essentially just watching jump cuts every day. There's no continuity. It doesn't matter. I don't see any Dutch angles in my Instagram feed.
No, I don't know what a Dutch angle is.
No, that's that. You see a lot in like Evil Dead where it's like looking from below and then they slightly tilt it.
Oh, okay.
That's the Dutch angle.
That's
my film nerd joke. Sorry.
No, I'm familiar with. I've like done that with my camera before, but I didn't know it had like a particular name.
That's all right. I paid $10,000 to know that.
Nice. Congratulations, dude.
Yeah, no, I got to use it just now.
Woo! Success, dude. Worth.
Yeah, thank you, Edinburgh Education.
No, that's great. So started off as filmmaking with your filmmaking degree.
Well, I started off in 1998. I joined a ska punk band. If you have any old people listening, ska was popular in the late 90s.
Ska was great, dude. I love Real Big Fish.
All right, right between punk and swing, there was ska. And I love Real Big Fish too. I've seen them. I only saw them once, but they were really good.
I saw them at Warped Tour a few years ago. It was fantastic.
Okay. Yeah. I haven't seen them since early 2000s, but they have a great horn line nonetheless. Yeah. But I did the ska punk band. They were already established and on Moon Ska, which was a label out of New York City. So we got to play a lot of festivals and a lot of big shows. And it was a lot at first because I went from not being in any band, like 2 months later, opening up for Less Than Jake in front of like 2,000 people. Yeah. So it was a pardon my French, but a huge mind fuck.
Right.
So I went from like marching band and like this geeky kid, and I still was a geeky kid, but now I was playing with these ska bands, and that's kind of where I got my want to play live. But honestly, I've had more fun in the smaller shows than I have in playing in front of like a lot of people, because you really only see like 2 or 3 rows out, and then it just kind of becomes a blur, and it just doesn't feel as intimate. Not saying that they're not fun, because the sound sounds better because you have a better house monitors, and you typically get the sound guy on the side of the stage. But that's where it started. Then after doing that band for 2 years, and we did a couple small little jaunts south and played New York City for like extended weekends where we played different boroughs, different clubs like the Wetlands. Got burned out because some people kind of got into some heady shit I wasn't into, and I was really in it just for the fun. Mm-hmm. Then I went to film school. And I took a break for bands for a while. Then after graduating there, I joined the band Telephonics and started working in television. I've worked a little bit in film and done some music videos for different bands. I did Maddie B's first music video when it came out in like 2004.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. I like doing music videos and different goofy shit like that. I haven't done any schooling or education as far as like my photography or videography goes. It's just been having a camera. And
Quentin Tarantino didn't, and he's doing great.
Yeah, right? There's potential out there. It's just having good ideas and being able to orchestrate and like demonstrate and make them come to fruition, I think. Really. I think that's what makes a good director. And also directing. Like I've been listening to, since we made this film, I've been listening to more podcasts about like interviews with directors like Tarantino and other people, and realizing how much that character development comes from the director and not from the actors. Because I always, my way that I approached KARANORMAL in a lot of ways was, you guys read the script, bring what you feel from the script into your portrayal of this character, and that will be good. Rather than, I mean, Dave had a good idea because he actually wrote it about what he was looking for and what the character should and shouldn't be, and those kind of transcribed. But for the most part, I gave our actors a lot of freedom to be and to do and to bring certain aspects of their characters to life. To act.
Which can work, especially in comedy. Like when you get those, like when you watch Will Ferrell or Seth Rogen, they do those line-o-ramas where they're just, okay, here's the scene, and then they give you a couple lines. Director will shoot a couple. They have them ad-lib some.
Right.
I feel it works better in like those avenues than a more serious film.
Right. No, I agree.
Yeah, I'd say one of the most famous examples of that I love is in the script for Caddyshack, Bill Murray didn't have any lines.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Well, there's certain people, it's just like Bill Murray. I mean, come on, you're going to...
They're like, well, you're going to be here, you're not going to have any lines. And by the end of it, you had some lines. You know?
Right. Yeah, no. And I'm looking forward to that aspect of our next project, which hopefully we'll make this summer. If not, I don't know, maybe fall or next year. It's going to be a comedy. It's going to be funny. It's going to be short and sweet and simple and easy. And I'm hoping that we can just get some of our funniest friends to come and mess around and make something that's, entertaining and good.
I think that's like, regardless of the media you're using, the platform you're using for artistic expression, that's got to be the main thing, is that you're having fun.
I mean, sometimes the artistic expression is fun.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's just, this is something
It's
fun,
not all
silly. Like, it's not, I just want to do it for fun. Like, I don't know if you watched any of the videos we did in I did in This American Song. The Golden Circles video was done during COVID. Couldn't see anyone. We put out a record. How are you going to shoot a music video if you can't all be in the same room? So me and my wife just went around and shot it on our phone. It's literally shot on a phone.
Yeah.
And it's silly. It's like a fake commercial for a product called Golden Circles, which doesn't exist. Like an all-purpose drink. So like I poured it in plants. I pretend like I put it in my car. I fed it to my cat.
Right.
So it was dumb, but it was entertaining, and we shot it on a phone.
Right. It doesn't have to be a big production all the time.
No.
Yeah, I guess that was my point on that.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things we learned with KARANORMAL too, is that it doesn't have to be a massive production all the time, and we don't have to drive ourselves crazy for 3 days shooting and trying to make sure we have everything done. We can make these short little sweet things in a weekend, and they'll be just as, maybe not just as good, but still entertaining and still have value for us to make and for people to enjoy.
Well, it was also our very first ever foray into that type of filmmaking. So, like, we didn't know what we were
We had no
getting
idea.
ourselves
Yeah,
into.
exactly.
But,
Right, filming or recording anything, you want to have practice doing it. Like, I listen to stuff I recorded 10 years ago with This American Song, and then stuff we're recording now, and we've learned so much about how to play together, how to record together, like what sounds good. I mean, even when you're putting set lists, when you've been around for 10 years, I mean, that's a lot of material, and you're only playing for 45 minutes for people who every song's new to them, even if it's 10 years old, because they maybe haven't seen you before. You just learn what songs sound best.
Yeah, for sure.
Or most fun to play. Sometimes that's it. It's not even like what the catchy song is. This is the one we want to play because it just rips, and we're playing it in practice.
Yeah.
do you, go I was going to say, because I want to get into this during the episode, you guys are playing in Celebrate Erie. So,
This American Song?
correct? Yes. Yeah. That's why I thought I read in the notes beforehand. So you're playing in Celebrate Erie, which is cool because that's a pretty big audience.
Yeah, we played last year too. It's the same stage. It's the
one on
the park.
The park.
In the park.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of fun to play. It was so hot last year, which it can be because you never know it's Erie. We're playing Friday in the afternoon. I mean, any time to play at Celebrate Erie is great because people start showing up then, especially with lunch, and people can take half days, or a lot of places downtown close because you can't really get to work. So yeah, we're playing. We played last year. I mean, one day I'd like to play a little later to get a little more people because after work more people show up. But I'm grateful that we're even playing. Again, there's always good sound because they have good sound guys that do that. I think I think it's a 45-minute or hour set. Again, you don't have that much time, so yeah, it's a lot of fun. I'm actually playing 3 times. The other one's with that Steely Mac. I know you wanted to talk about that. Mackenzie from Optimistic Apocalypse, who's also in This American Song, along with her boyfriend Brent, who I said earlier is in Machine Elvis, and he's the drummer for This American Song, are putting together, or they already put together, this Steely Dan cover band. And since her name is Mackenzie, it's Steely Mac. It's not a Steely Dan Fleetwood Mac mix. It's Steely Dan songs covered, or I should say interpreted, because they sound really close, but we might be doing something a different key, and I know Steely Dan fans might go, actually, that is played in sharp, and then you guys played it in regular key, but it's pretty close. I had to practice with them last night. It sounded pretty good. I'm looking forward to it.
It'll be very cool. And that's going to be at Celebrate Erie too?
Yeah, I think the way it just happened is I think that's playing right after This American Song, which is going to work out for us, so we can just share gear and the transfer over to bands. It's going to be like that. And then I'm also lined up to play with Steve Drahosky. He set up this...
He's got so many different bands.
Yeah, they're like projects, and he does have a lot of bands. He's an amazing bass player.
Sure, yeah.
Him and his wife own a City Gallery.
Right.
If you've ever been to City Gallery.
Many times. I got to get Steve on the show too, but we've been booked for so long, I haven't had to.
Well, he's booked for so long time. It's going to be a hard get just because he's so busy.
Right.
And he has a family and everything.
Sure.
But he put together, I don't know if you've ever heard of like the Bone records in Russia and Ukraine. So when Western music was outlawed in the Ukraine way back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, even early 90s, they used to have to take old x-rays and they would put the grooves of records into that. So they were kind of disposable. So you'd have like old jazz songs through like Beatles, through like Metallica, through the decades that were cut onto these x-rays of people.
Interesting.
Like old discarded x-rays from the hospital. And that's how people could listen to Western music.
So they used to be on like metal, right?
Well, you're talking a long time. I think you're talking about the not the 45s, the 78s. Those are more like, you'd have to have like a diamond filament for that. That's more like turn of the century, early 1900s. But I'm still talking just like the vinyl that we have today. They weren't allowed to have anything that was Western.
Right.
So like if they're not the cops, whatever.
Yeah. The Gestapo.
Police, the Gestapo.
KGB.
KGB came through, and if you had these like Beatles records or something, you'd get in trouble.
Right.
So they would have or even jazz records. So they'd be able to get rid of them real quick. They were just on X-rays. So he's reinterpreting songs of that era and are from the jazz era, not like the Beatles or Metallica, but like reinterpreting those and writing some original material inspired by those Bone records and the things that people went through just to get to like music they wanted to hear and art that they wanted to hear. So he's composed these pieces for I believe like a normal like bass, drum, guitar. Forgive me, Steve, if I'm wrong, and a couple vocalists and 3 trombones, because it's a Bone record, so he wanted 3 trombones. So he asked me to partake in that, and he said he's going to send me some music for that this week, so awesome. I can start learning it, and then we can start practicing it. So I'm looking forward to that, because I always like those stories.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting to hear about the cultures and how things have persisted over time, despite being illegal or whatever the circumstances may have been back then, that people still want it, and people always find a way.
Right.
Very cool. Yeah, I helped Dig It Dave record the Saturn in Brazil show that they did at PACA, and all the stuff that he does is super interesting and cool. I enjoy it a lot. Definitely a good bass player. Definitely good at coordinating different musicians and bringing them together to make awesome music. So
yeah, I've known Steve for at least 10, 15 years, and it's good to finally actually work with him not on like a musical level, not just like playing his venue or like coming to see him play.
Right. Yeah, to actually come together and make something new.
Collaborate.
Yeah, we got the Jazz and Arts Fest coming up soon too. I'm looking forward to that.
The one
Jazz
in
and Blues
Blues
Fest.
Jazz Fest.
Yeah, Blues and Jazz Fest.
I'm gonna be excited for that. I was bummed when they had to cancel it last year.
Yeah, Schlegel is a good band though that Steve brought in. He kind of saved Jazz Fest last year.
Yeah, they played at down at PACA in that building that we had everything at Once Palooza in.
That's right.
Or in that storefront. It's a furniture store now. very fancy.
And Dumpster Funk's playing this year. As a Deadhead, you might know. You're familiar with the Neville Brothers and all that stuff.
I'm familiar.
Yeah. Looking forward to that.
Hell yeah.
We'll see you up front. You'll be dancing.
Jamming
around
out.
to them.
I'm not a very good dancer. I usually just close my eyes and spin around a little bit, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
You know?
As long as you're feeling it, no one's judging.
Yeah. No wrong way to enjoy it.
No.
I wasn't blessed with the rhythm of some people. You know what I'm saying? But I have a good
percussion
time.
instrument. I have rhythm. I can't dance. So
Yeah.
I get you.
I don't have rhythm. I like to think I can dance, but probably a debatable subject for the most part. I know I definitely don't have rhythm though. But I don't know. That's very much a practice thing. I feel like there were times in my life where I had rhythm, where I was playing more music and playing drums and singing songs. But I feel like recently I haven't been doing that as much, so I'm a little out of practice for sure as far as rhythm goes.
Never mind. I was going to make a joke, but I'm not going to.
It takes so much work to be good at an instrument or to play an instrument or to have rhythm or any of those things.
Right.
Like anything practice, though, you just have to want it and do it.
Yeah. What keeps you playing music?
Like I said before, it's the only thing that
It's
I
your
really
addiction.
ever. It's my addiction. It's one thing I got into. I mean, I was probably like 12 or 13, and I just turned on MTV, and I had a little black and white TV in my room because this is like 1992, and I lived in the Lower East Side. We didn't even have a CD player. My parents weren't into music. We had an old record player no one touched. Got into music, and just started going to the thrift stores and picking up records for like a quarter and a dime a piece based on covers alone. And I got into all sorts of different music, and I found that I liked different things. And at the time, that was like right when grunge was getting big, so there was all sorts of actually good music that was popular instead of like that hair metal that was weaning at the time. And then there was like a bunch of good like underground hip hop coming out, like The Roots and Tribe Called Quest and Wu-Tang Clan back then. So
No doubt.
and you could catch any of that stuff any night you watched it. And there was like Headbangers Ball, so you could get good metal and thrash. It was like it wasn't really a style. Then by like the late 90s, you get anything from ska and punk to like Beck or Cake or the Eels. You get all sorts of like different genres, and if you don't limit yourself of what you like and just go, oh, I like that for whatever reason I like it, you can really expand like and enrich your life.
Yeah. I agree.
In the late 90s, my favorite bands to watch on MTV were Limp Bizkit, Korn, and the Bloodhound Gang, and I think that says a lot about how I turned out as an adult. So
Right. Yeah.
I'm a little older, so I'm a little snobbier. Those bands where I was just like, oh, that's to me. The Korn and Limp Bizkit reminded me of the sexist '80s thing that I hated when I was into music. So I never got into them. Bloodhound Gang, I always thought of as a dirty Weird Al. They were just like a joke band.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
were a giant meme for sure.
And they're from State College, PA. Erie Eric Fagiorgio did the cover for One Fierce Beer Coaster.
really, I did not know that.
Yeah, if you still have that record, look at it. It says Erie. Oh, I think it just says Eric Fagiorgio because he wasn't Erie Eric back then. Have you guys had him on the show?
No, I talked with him around like winter time, and we ended up losing contact. Well, not losing contact, but like losing touch about him coming on sometime this summer, and then we filled up like a million months all at once. But
Him and his wife Carrie are very wonderful, nice people. Maybe you guys could do a show with them in October because they would be perfect fit.
yeah, exactly.
And they do that Krampus thing in Christmas too.
Yeah. No, I definitely have some of his art actually scattered throughout my house.
I got some too.
Yeah. Fantastic stuff. We definitely texted a while, and then I don't know, both of us, we wanted to put it off for a little bit, and then we never just reconnected. So I'll reach out to him after this episode and see if we can get him lined up for some time. Because
We will.
we will. Eric, if you're listening, we're coming for you.
And I want residuals for your show for reminding them.
Bam.
I want residuals for my show.
Right, yeah, dude.
Yeah, I'm not getting paid.
We all would like to get paid, which doesn't actually happen. But
One day, maybe.
One day,
maybe not.
maybe not. Who knows? Maybe we'll sign a big deal. That's like the goal, or like the dream of everybody. You know what I mean? Something catches fire, and
I mean, I used to think that when I was younger, and then it got to a point where it's just I'm happy doing what I'm doing, and if I can make any amount of money is fine. Like I said, I just got a $12 check.
Hell yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Right.
I didn't do it for the check. I mean, there's a point where you don't care. However, the second you get that first $12 check, you technically sold out because you got paid for it.
Yeah, fuck.
I don't know. You don't want to sell out, so you might not want to get paid.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't
Well,
care about
we-
selling out. I don't care about selling
We've
out.
gotten paid for different things, but most of it has been turned into that wall behind you of gear and all the stuff that you see on the table, and
The camera,
the camera and the monitors and the
Pretty
computer,
nice.
all
And that walk-in
stuff.
humidor over there.
Oh yeah, so the walk-in humidor and the sauna and the tree house out back, all the things. But no, it's been good, and it's not about the money, but I am very grateful that like we have been able to continue to progress as far as like our production goes through being able to expand and get bigger and better things and more things, and it's just been a wonderful process. And you know, hopefully it continues to keep growing. Hopefully your shows keep growing, all the bands keep growing, and
Thank you. I hope
maybe
your show
someday
keeps
we'll
growing
get
too.
paid. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Prosperity for all.
Prosperity for all, prosperity for all the new artists out there. I hope you guys are enjoying the Treehouse series this year. I'm trying to bring some fresh new people that maybe you've never heard of, or maybe you've never seen before, or at least haven't been up in the Treehouse before. So I hope that you guys can all appreciate that a little bit. Larry, thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us. It's been
I really
a pleasure.
appreciate you guys having me. I could sit here for another hour and X minutes and talk about more.
Maybe we'll have you back and we'll continue this conversation another time for sure.
Part two.
Part 2. Look for it. We're starting to have
Electric Boogaloo.
That's right. That's usually Dave's line, but
I like this guy. I like this guy. He's on to something.
thank you everybody for listening. Thanks to all our sponsors, all the people out there who like, share, follow, all the things, push the buttons. Y'all are the best. And peace out. Y'all have a great night.